Welcome back to another episode of Till the Wheels Fall Off. I'm Matt.
I'm Paige.
She's back.
Yay!
This is going to be nice because I've gotten stuck so many times recording on my own where I'm used to having someone next to me that can kind of bail me out whenever my mind goes blank, as it often does. So this is great. It's great to have you back.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you
Feels
happy
good.
to have me back?
For sure, man.
Now, this may not be like every episode I'm back. We're going to kind of take this slow, I think.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. How's your hiatus been, by the way?
It's been good. It's been good. Removing myself for a little bit really helped me gain some clarity. So it's basically practicing what I preach. I'm able to see things in just a different light. So it was great. It felt good.
It's awesome to have you back. But
It's
I'm
good to be
also
back. Thanks, babe.
accepting that it may not be every single week. It's just kind of as time allows, right? And as your mood dictates and everything else. This is literally what you teach people.
I
about.
have some priorities that have to go first before this. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Today we're going to be talking about resentment. Resentment is never anything I don't think we've discussed directly. Maybe at some point we talked about it, but it's probably been years.
Yes. One of our very first episodes, in our top 10 episodes, we talked about forgiveness,
Okay.
which they go hand in hand.
They do.
They do. But it was from a different perspective. I think now we're going to be able to come at it from a different angle that might be really helpful for our listeners.
Yeah. A question that we get all the time is, how do you let go of resentment? I'm resentful. How do I stop feeling this way? And it's not as cut and dry as you think. And you've probably heard a lot of things about how to release resentment from a spiritual perspective or maybe even a psychological perspective. But as it turns out, resentment does serve a purpose in much the same way that anger serves a purpose. And is there a way to release resentment? Sure. But there's some prerequisites that have to be met in order to do that. Unless you just want to lie to yourself, which we've always said we will never teach you how to do.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a good episode, good conversation. I think a lot of people are in this place right now where they want to feel safe in their relationship again, and they want to forgive and they want to start to rebuild, but it's not always up to you. And so we're going to talk about what that looks like when resentment is safe, when it's not, and the nuance of everything you've ever heard about resentment and why some of it's valid and some of it is frankly wrong in our opinion. First things first, thank you to Soberlink. Soberlink is today's sponsor for our show. If you don't know what it is by now, it's the world's greatest accountability device that also happens to look like a breathalyzer. You're someone like me and you're trying to rebuild trust, maybe trying to reduce some resentment in your relationship. You can actually help this process out quite a bit by voluntarily getting one of these things and taking the weight of babysitting your sobriety off of everyone around you. You get the device, you set up people in your network that get alerted every time you use it, and they're going to know that you're serious because it's tamper-proof and it has facial recognition technology. The person using the device with Soberlink is the person that's supposed to be using the device, not your buddy, not your leaf blower or whatever concoction you've worked up to try to cheat these things. They have thought of that. You never know, man. People are clever.
I know. You're not wrong.
And it's never been easier to get into a Soberlink. Right now, there are no more upfront costs. For as little as $19 a month with a qualifying subscription plan, you can get the device and rent it month to month for $19 a month. And since you're a listener of our show, they're going to send you a $100 Visa gift card to help with that monthly plan cost. So it's never been easier. And if you're someone who's serious about rebuilding trust, remember it's lost in buckets and it's rebuilt in droplets. You can do that with the Soberlink, and it's really a gift you give your loved ones. They no longer have to go searching for bottles or wonder what you're up to. You can actually start to rebuild things on a real level. And if you're in a situation where you're just done, you're just fed up and you just need to make sure your kids are going somewhere safe, Soberlink is there for you in those moments as well. It's court admissible in all 50 states and in Canada. It's trusted by over 200,000 people. And you can get these things written into your custody agreements. If you want to know more, check out soberlink.com/wheels. Again, that's soberlink.com/wheels. Just toss in your email address. They will send you the coupon voucher for that $100 rebate, and you can get started on your way to rebuilding right now. While you're on the internet, head over to twfo.com where you can find out everything about us. We've got a program called Independently Strong. You can get 75% off of that program using the code WHEELIES75 at checkout. It's run mostly by Paige. I make a little appearance in there, and our clinical architect, Dr. Taylor. It's a course that we developed to help spouses and partners on their own healing journey. It also comes with Zoom calls, community meetings, if you will. And one of us, if not both of us, are oftentimes part of these things. So it's not complete unfiltered access to us, but you do get us a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Again, priorities sometimes.
Priorities sometimes,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
On the website, we've also got these cool things. This is a recovery rock. Let's see if I can get that closer to the camera a little bit. There's some reflection. We're still trying to figure out how cameras and stuff work.
Okay, that's another thing with this episode. I haven't used this camera yet. So if y'all are watching on YouTube, I might be weird, like looking at weird things because I'm not used to the camera.
We're figuring stuff out as we go. We've got all these new lights in the camera and everything else, but on the front's got our logo. On the back, this rock says, "Thank you for being my rock." It's a really cool way to acknowledge the journey that someone else has walked with you through recovery. We've also got sweatshirts and stickers and all kinds of stuff on our website. You can head over there, check it all out. Free community, free Facebook community for listeners of this show. You can access that by heading over to the website as well. We've also got a new thing Paige set up, which is really cool, called Buy Me a Coffee. If you've ever wanted to contribute to the show in some way, you can do that. You can buy us a cup of coffee. You can set it up on like a one-time basis or a recurring basis, whatever it is. If you'd like to get to the show and everything we've ever gotten from the show, we've never paid ourselves $1 from the show. Everything that we get goes back into production of the show, whether that's editing, if that's
that. It's also Zoom calls that we offer in our community. Yeah. We offer free Zoom calls for those that are in the community that are member led almost every day of the week. They are growing. They will be growing. So we have to pay for the Zoom calls or the meetings. So that's something that people can contribute to if they'd like to.
To run a podcast, it's almost like you ever gone through your credit card statement and looked at your personal subscriptions? It's just crazy. Running a podcast is much the same way. It's like there's so many.
We have a lot of things in the background.
So if you've ever want to help contribute, we would appreciate it.
Definitely not required. It's just
if you don't, we love you all the same.
Yeah.
It's totally cool.
Absolutely.
Let's get started, man. Let's get this going. Resentment. This comes up a lot.
It does.
Pretty recently, we've gotten some messages about it. We've seen some stuff in the community about it, where people are asking about resentment. How do I let go of this resentment? Like, I'm still feeling very angry. There was someone who actually said that their spouse was celebrating a sobriety date, like an anniversary of sorts. I don't remember monthly or yearly, but they have a really hard time congratulating that person because there's still a lot of resentment there. And for some, they would say that that's crazy. But I don't think it's crazy at all. I think it's completely understandable. And resentment does serve a purpose. And you've probably heard a million things about resentment and what that is and how to let it go and all the different bases for it and everything else. And so I think first, let's cover some of those. We've got a list here of some of the crap you've probably heard about resentments.
Yeah. This one is actually not on the list, but it's something that you've said a million times. And it does serve a purpose and it does have a place, but what about the cat one? It's the cats.
Oh, resentments are like stray cats and they go away whenever you stop feeding them.
Okay. And I agree with that to a certain extent. It depends on where you are within your relationship. That's basically what this episode is going to be about, is when resentment is helpful, like in toxic relationships, and then in healthy relationships, it can, cause problems. And that's where I feel like that is very beneficial.
Yeah, a lot of times advice and quotes and things like that, the author intended a certain context that quote was to be used in. And I think that we can read a quote of any kind or something and apply it universally. And it's not really universal in that sense. I do think that there is some truth to that they are something that when you stop feeding, they can let go. But if that harm is still occurring, or if there's never been closure whatsoever, and closure is possible, like if this is your spouse or something, I'm not talking about someone that's passed away, but if this is someone that's still in your life, they're still harming you, you're not going to be able to just let that go and stop feeding that resentment, because that resentment is being fed by someone else. It's being pushed onto you and it's hurting, and it's supposed to hurt. It's your body's way of reminding you that something's not right in this situation. But that's one I remember hearing from 12 steps. Like they're like stray cats and they go away when you stop feeding them. But I heard that in the context of someone who's in recovery, like an alcoholic or an addict, or somebody who's working through a resentment they have toward their boss, from 12 years ago, who fired them for whatever reason they felt was unjustified. And they're still just
family
really
members too.
Angry, or a family member.
The way that you're grown, that you've been raised.
Yeah. And there's, at some point you do have to walk forward and move on and accept that situation for what it was. And then, as we will talk about in the episode, like Viktor Frankl's talked about in Man's Search for Meaning, If our pain doesn't serve a purpose, oftentimes it will haunt us. And so you have to find a purpose and what the lesson was behind that. And you can kind of accept that and then walk forward. But this isn't meant for someone who's continually being abused. I think it's important to recognize that whenever someone may comment that on your TikTok video, or you read that on Reddit or wherever you might come across something like that, it's contextual. And I think it's important to recognize that.
Yeah. I mean, I've been pretty open about like certain things on IG or Facebook or TikTok where people are, it's very standard, positivities being sent to other people, but it's not necessarily for people in these situations and in unhealthy dynamics.
Yeah. If I had $1 for every quote that didn't apply
to
someone in one of these relationships, it would be filthy rich.
Right.
Because there's a lot of that stuff that's meant for marriages that are having quote unquote normal problems, right?
Yeah.
And that's applicable. Sure. A lot of it is. It really is. Like these are just wisdom lessons that you pick up. But if you try to apply that to a situation that doesn't fit in, it's not going to fit. It's like trying to use a key in the wrong lock. It will not turn. It just it won't work.
Can I say, I really wish I had my swivel chair right now.
I didn't set the chairs up, so I can't.
I did, and I completely messed up because I am not used to how I'm sitting.
We need to get another swivel chair.
Yeah, we do. We have 2 totally different chairs. I know we're totally off topic, but I just had to say that because I'm very uncomfortable with the way I'm sitting right now. And I feel like I need to
you gotta turn it.
Can I maneuver? Okay.
Or just stand up and just turn the chair.
I'm okay. I'm good now.
All right.
I'm good.
Okay. What's something else people hear?
So this is one that a lot of people hear. Resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. You've said this as well. I've said this as well. And I believe that again to a certain extent, but that assumes that resentment is only self-destructive. Like it's your problem that you need to fix. That's not how it is in all cases. In abusive or relationships with an addict, the resentment isn't poison. It's a warning system. It's telling you that something is wrong, that something's going on, that you need to do something about it. And it's not about hurting the other person. It's about protecting you.
Right.
So you think that you're being resentful is just hurting the other person or whatnot, but it's just harming you, but it's not. It's a system. It's telling you that something has to change.
Yeah, it's a great point and great distinction to make too. It's totally different than the person that cut you off in traffic last week and you just could not let it go. Like, how dare that son of a bitch think that I'm less than and he can cut me off and treat me like hell and disrespect me. And you're sitting around stewing about it and you're spending time and energy that would otherwise be spent enjoying your life, angry at somebody. It really is. You are truly poisoning yourself and they are getting nothing. Like they have no clue. Like they're living rent free in your head at the moment.
Right.
And you're not hurting them. You really are in those instances only hurting yourself.
Right.
And I hope you can see the distinction that Paige is making, where she's not talking about someone who's in your life currently causing resentment because of their actions, doing things that would lead you to be resentful. This isn't a one-off thing that happened years ago, like the girl that stole your boyfriend sophomore year in high school and you're now 40 and you're still really been out of shape about it. Like at some point we do have to recognize that it is what it is.
You need to let that thing go.
Upon you to let that shit go.
Yeah, for sure.
Totally different.
Yeah. Okay. The next one is going to be, you need to forgive so you can heal. Mm-hmm. Forgiveness isn't always safe or appropriate. It's not always safe or appropriate, especially when harm is ongoing.
Yeah. This is one I see a lot, man. And I think in like biblical context a lot, this is often the solution for a lot of people's anger. And a lot of times like their hurt or their resentments, whatever you might have, is that ultimately forgiveness is a gift that you're giving yourself. It's not necessarily for the other person. And I think this is sort of like a spiritual guilt trip that a lot of people will present to people. Like it's their way of not wanting to deal with that person hurting. And so they'll present this idea that, listen, like if you're ever going to heal, you've just got to stop feeling this way. Like it's a gift you give yourself. And like, it's not wholly incorrect, but is it appropriate? I think is the right question to ask. Like, Is it appropriate right now for the context of this situation?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you tell someone to forgive too soon, when like they're not ready, they can be stuck in that harm, or just silence their justified anger. They can be stuck in that if you tell them to do it too soon.
Yeah. I think again, like I think about this, I had this like aha moment when our kids were really young, and we've got a little boy and he's hyperactive, and a lot of times he can't sit still, and he's like moving around, he's fidgeting and everything else. And like, I want to control that, and I want him to stop acting this way. And so in doing that, I had the realization one day that like, he's just being a little boy. And to the degree that I want to control him, it's not about him, it's about me. And it's about me feeling uncomfortable. So a lot of times people will present their pain to others, and it makes them uncomfortable. And they're like, how do I make this go away? Because it's making me uncomfortable. It's not really about them.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm offering you this advice. Is it really about you, or is it about me not wanting, like, this makes me feel uncomfortable. There's really no solution here. And so we present this generic idea that it's about, you know, it's, you can't heal if you don't let this go. Like, I think that we process things in time as we learn what the point of the lesson was.
Exactly.
And like what it taught me. But that doesn't happen right away. That happens over years of like letting it go little by slow, and understanding like that we weren't necessarily the cause of it. There's nothing we could have done about it. We didn't deserve to be treated that way. And these are all like little fragments of what a healing journey looks like. But I think so often we would just want things to just disappear because it's inconvenient for everyone else. You know, it's like, you just need to let that go because you can't heal otherwise. And it's almost like the spiritual guilt trip for people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do.
Am I off base?
No,
That's
you're
the way
totally
I've always
on
kind of
base.
felt about these sort of statements.
I get that. The next one is resentment means you haven't let go of the past. So in these types of relationship, resentment isn't just about the past. It's about ongoing patterns, which you're going to hear us say this a lot within this episode, because I think that part is very important when it comes to resentment. Because the patterns are betrayal, disrespect, lying, you know, all the things that go along with these relationships that we discuss all the time. You can't just let go when the behavior is still happening today. So if they're saying that resentment means that you haven't let go of the past, I mean, the truth is the past is still happening. So that is a false statement.
Yeah. It can't be the past when it's still occurring on a regular basis, you know?
Yeah. And I'll even add that if you have a partner who is in recovery, like we say all the time, sobriety doesn't fix everything. It's not like they get sober and the resentment just completely goes away. Like it's going to take 1 to 2 years of changed behaviors for you to actually feel safe within the relationship, for that resentment to slowly go away. But it's even meant to be there in early recovery as guardrails. So
did you have any resentments like this in the beginning whenever I was getting sober? Did you like, you've talked about it, but like, did you really feel a lot of resentment?
I think a lot. No, I didn't. But I think that my main resentment, and it sounds kind of crazy. My main resentment was that you were getting so much praise for all the things that you were doing. And I felt like, what about me? You know, like, what about my experience? What about what I've had to deal with? You know, is anybody going to ask me how I feel, or are you know, like, it just. And I know that you did really well with your sobriety and your milestones. Like, you were never like, oh, I'm proud of myself, I've done such a great job. You were just like really weird about it. You let me be proud of you. And it didn't mean, just because I was resentful didn't mean that I wasn't proud of you. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense.
I had two thoughts at once.
Yeah. I always tried to make those anniversaries about other people. Like, it's about us, and we're celebrating the end of the madness. The end of the toxicity in our relationship. Like, it's kind of a landmark occasion where we recognize that we're moving forward. We're not stuck anymore. We're not moving back. But I was never one to be like, oh, look at me. Look what I did. No, it's always been about, I think, other people, which is important. If you're in recovery listening to this, like, let other people be proud. You just remain grateful. You just remain dedicated. You just remain true to the path that you're walking. Let other people be proud. Yeah. Not to say you can't be proud. I just don't think that should be your main, like, your go-to. Right.
No, you can have all those different feelings. It doesn't have to just be one, you know? But I'm also thinking about another thing that I was resentful. Now things are going to come out because I was, let's think about that.
I think this is important because so many people that listen want your perspective.
Well, not just that. I think that they can relate to it and say like, okay, yeah, that totally makes sense. I think that I resented the fact that you got to have like a really good time in your early 20s and not have many responsibilities. Like, you got to fuck around and have fun with your friends and sleep in and just do a bunch of stuff where I was like, okay, I had to grow up pretty quickly. You know, I started working very quickly out of high school. So I was kind of resentful towards that, and then I was like, okay, wait a second. I got to enjoy that as well. I got to partake a little bit for a little while. I didn't let it get out of hand. But it just, over time, it got to where I was like, okay, I let that go. Like, I'm not resentful towards that anymore because of where we are in our lives right now and in our relationships.
What about in recovery, when someone's in early recovery, especially, how, I think part of early recovery is selfish in the sense that you do have to focus a lot on yourself and you have to focus on your own healing. And some of that comes with a lot of self-care that does take time away from the home. It takes time away from the marriage. And so you've got a spouse that's been holding everything together for forever, and they're waiting for their break. And recovery doesn't really provide that, especially early on, because someone's going to be gone in therapy or IOP or meetings, or maybe they've been at treatment for like 90 days or whatever it might be. And then it's the visits to the gym.
I was going to say.
It's all that stuff. And now it becomes, it's not just about the recovery itself. It's about, this is an unequal partnership, and
Yes.
I'm still drowning over here. Even though you've gotten better, I'm not feeling the results of better necessarily, because it's better, but it's marginally.
It's better, but there's still some issues. And it's kind of like you discussed, where whenever you do get sober, it's like a train, right? Like everything that happened before then is all going to come out. What does that say?
Yeah.
How do you say that?
This came from Steve, and it's this great, illusion to think about the way like early recovery works. It's like you're pulling a freight train, and just because you stop pulling the train doesn't mean it stops moving. You can drop that rope or that chain, and that thing just keeps on rolling. It's got momentum of its own. And that's how early recovery and all the problems sort of work. Like in the beginning, it's like, okay, I'm not pulling this train anymore, so the weight's gone. But then you look behind you, and this thing's still following you, and all the problems are still following you, and all the issues will continue to haunt you. And that's just reality. And that's
part of the healing process.
Yeah. And I know a lot of spouses at times they're a little resentful at the fact that, like, okay, so what about me? Am I ever going to feel like I matter here? Am I ever going to feel like this is at us and not just you?
Right.
And like, is it ever going to be where I can relax a little bit and you can pick up some of the slack? You just get resentful at the fact that you've always had to be the strong one. Yeah. And it's like that whole, like, where's my me? Like, where's my me?
You have that. You've talked about this on episodes and how you've had this in different areas of your life as well.
Did you feel a lot of that when I was fresh in this deal, or even at any point during this deal?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I felt like, just, when is it going to be my turn? When am I going to be able to speak up on how I feel about certain things, and it took a while for that to be, for that to actually come out.
Yeah. And I want to wait until we get to the, how do you let this stuff go, before I hear more about how you got through that stuff. But let's first talk about like what resentment really is. Like, what is resentment? We've heard a lot about it. You think you might know exactly, but how is resentment defined? It's
built up anger, disappointment, and betrayal.
Yeah. It's kind of a mixture of those. It's anger, disappointment, betrayal.
It's a very uncomfortable feeling.
I think it's also derived sort of from where our expectations and reality sort of diverge, like the dissonance between the two, the expectation we might have for someone versus the reality in which they show up. The gap in between is resentment, sort of.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So why don't we break this down? Because we've talked a lot about in the beginning, like the open, there's a time and a place for resentment. And I think it can be really helpful to let go of things. And there's also a time where it's really trying to teach you something. And what are the differences? And we'll break it up into two groups. One will be a quote unquote healthy relationship. This is one that doesn't have ongoing abuse or addiction present or something like that. And then we'll talk about some of the more complex situations where you might develop resentments. And so this can be growing up in a toxic home and being an adult and feeling like you missed out on your childhood, or on like, parents that were there for you. This could be in an addicted relationship where you've been abused. This can be when you've dealt with the abuse of addiction, because I do believe that addiction is a form of abuse. It's the abandonment of responsibilities. It's the gaslighting. It's the lies that come with it. All of that stuff is wrapped up. These are abusive behaviors. And if you look at you're being mistreated, you're being devalued, you're being disregarded, you're being disrespected over a long period of time. It's abusive. And people can sit here and argue with me all day long, and I'm never going to change my mind. Is that
you possibly could.
I guess I reserve the right to, but I think that where I'm standing right now is that you can look at the role of a spouse in addiction, and that's abusive. It's abusive. It's flat, plain and simple. And it's not to shame anyone or to anger anyone or make anyone feel less than or worse than they already do about it. It's just the facts. And you can talk to any spouse that's been through it, and they will give you some shade of that, if not full blown. Oh, absolutely. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I want to talk about basically what resentment is within the unhealthy relationships first. You want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's protective. It's meant to be there. If you're in a relationship with somebody who is an active addiction, or let's say that they are not an active addiction, but they still have dry drunk behaviors, like they're not working on recovery, they're not changing, they're not giving you space to speak up. Resentment is there for a reason. It's not something to let go of. It's not something to work through. It's not something, because the question gets asked all the time, like, how do I get through it? How do I deal with it? How do I cope with it? That's the wrong question typically. And we'll talk about the right question to ask later on. But it's not something you just deal with. It's meant to guide you. It's meant to protect you. It's meant to tell you to make a change within your life. Because the patterns are still going, the behavior is still happening. There's still lying. There's still neglect. There's still abandonment. There's still all of these things that go along with addictive behaviors. So the resentment is telling you something. It is a signal. It is a sign. It is saying, hey, I'm here. I'm here for a reason. You got to do something about this.
Man, I wish I had $1 for every time someone would say, if she could just let it go, then we'd be fine. If she could just drop it, things would be fine. When oftentimes, like, what their spouses and partners are being given on the other side of a betrayal or in like an early recovery process of some kind, it's like breadcrumbs, right? It's like, be okay with these breadcrumbs, even though you're starving for real apologies and real healing and real accountability. You're just given these breadcrumbs, and it's almost like you should be happy with that. You should just be grateful. You should just be grateful that they're sober. You should just be grateful that whatever else. Remember, it's not about the substance, it's about the behaviors. And even though you can put your substance down overnight, your behaviors will not change overnight. They won't. And so the resentment that spouses generally feel isn't coming from the fact that I'm drinking right now. It's coming from the fact that I'm treating you like crap. And that stuff doesn't just stop overnight. It's still occurring.
You don't want it to stop. I know that people feel like they want the resentment to go away. It might be eating them alive, and they're thinking, how do I get rid of this? I don't want you to ask how to get rid of it. I want you to ask yourself what it's meant to tell you. What is it telling you? Is it telling you that something is not right within your relationship? Is it telling you to make a change? It probably is, but letting go of it too soon before you're ready is going to keep you stuck in harm for much longer than necessary. It keeps you in denial. It keeps you out of reality. It makes you minimize things because you're like, I just want to get rid of this feeling. How do I get rid of this anger? Make it go away. That's not how this works if it's continuously happening in your relationship.
It breaks my heart, and I want to like shake the person on the other side of it, because they could do their spouses or partner, whoever, such a courtesy by acknowledging these things and just acknowledging their existence for why they feel resentful, and then naming the things that they know they need to work on, and then giving their spouse or partner an opportunity to talk about that stuff too. So it's at the very least, it's on the table, because a lot of people aren't talking about this stuff. And so you've got a spouse who's like feeling so guilty that they feel resentment still.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't want to feel this way. And then you're right. Resentment and anger don't feel good. They're horrible emotions to have. And so badly, you just want to feel safe in your marriage again. And you'll do essentially anything you possibly can. And a lot of people do lie to themselves that I just have to let it go. And they somehow compartmentalize this stuff in their brain to sort of trick themselves into believing that it never happened, or that it wasn't as bad as you feel like it was. And yeah, you just minimize it to the degree that you're able to move forward. But I'm telling you that emotions buried alive will never die. At some point, this stuff will come back up. And it'll oftentimes come back up in really passive aggressive ways, or it'll come back up in a way where you're never going to be able to really connect because you just don't feel safe. And you're not going to be able to figure it out without work in therapy and work together. You're just going to be disconnected, and what I'm saying is that you're not going to fix this by pretending it didn't happen. You're not going to fix this by just saying,
let go, just by letting go.
I'm moving forward because I said I am, especially when there's a lot of stuff that's still unresolved.
Yeah.
That's only normal. It's only normal. It's a smoke alarm telling you something's not right.
Yeah. And it's not a character defect. It is not a flaw. It is not something that, it doesn't mean that something is wrong with you because you're holding on to resentment. I feel like even as a society, we feel like if we're resentful towards anything, it's like, oh no, that's bad. You can't do that. Don't feel resentment. You've got to let that go. Forgiveness is everything. It's important. It's not good for you to hold on to that stuff, but it's like, no, I understand it's not good to hold on to it, but it's not good to just let it go either.
Once again, who is it benefiting when we tell people to just let it go?
The abuser.
It's benefiting.
And yes, I'm going to say that.
Yeah,
it's benefiting the abuser.
Benefiting the people that don't want to take accountability or change. It's easier to tell that person to forget about it than it is for someone to take accountability.
Yeah.
And that's a sad reality of life, is that so few people will take the sort of accountability necessary that gives the other person, I guess, the permission to move forward, even with the anger and everything else. We're just telling them, you're never going to get that. You just have to walk and just forget about it. Just suck it up, stiffen up your lip and just walk forward, because it's much harder to get someone to take accountability. And you, I mean, honestly, yeah, you can't force someone to do it either. You can't force someone to take accountability. I wish everyone would, but you can't force them to do it.
No. And so are you muting me over there?
No, I'm having to mute my mic. It'll make it easier whenever
you edit that?
Whenever you're talking. Yeah.
Okay. I was like, I'm just afraid that you're going to push it while you're talking, or when one of us is talking and then it's not even going to record.
That'll be my problem when I go to edit.
Okay. So let's discuss, like, how do you, what's the right term? What do we do with resentment if we're in these dynamics, in the unhealthy dynamics? It's basically reframing the question of saying, what is this resentment telling me? What does it mean? And then you start making changes within your life. Like, this is where our program comes into play, our Independently Strong program, because it helps you on your healing journey. It helps you learn how to set boundaries. It helps you connect with others going through the same thing. It helps you, heal from these situations and like build up your confidence so that you can make decisions that do align with your values. So those are the types of things that you want to do if you're still in the relationship and you're like, I just need to deal with this resentment. Start building yourself up. That's where the healing begins. And that's where that letting go of resentment actually works. And I don't even want to say letting go. It's just like reframing the question of, what is it meant to tell? What is it telling me? What is it telling me?
Yeah. And I think, when it comes to wanting to let go of this resentment or whatever else, and you like you mentioned, I love that frame, is that what is it trying to teach me? Mm-hmm. Like, what is it telling me? I don't see why this is not something that you can talk about with the person if you're still intimately involved with them about what you're going through as well. Not to say that it will fix anything, but naming it and putting it out there and like, this exists. This is real. This is happening. It doesn't just live inside of me. And you can talk about this stuff. I'm always fascinated and amazed by people that don't talk.
Okay. Well, we've talked about how having a conversation with somebody in active addiction typically doesn't get you anywhere anyway, but you do need to release it somewhere. If you're not safe talking about it with your partner, talk to a therapist, talk to the support group, talk to somebody who's going to hear you, and can help you make changes necessary to get through that. Obviously you can talk to your spouse, if you feel like that's a safe space to do, but with less expectations. It's about you. It's about how you feel. It's about your, what you're going through. But I mean, if they're, still in active addiction or a dry drunk, it's not going to get you very far, but it does need to be released somewhere.
Something that I've been through personally when it comes to resentment is, man, it's a sad and shocking reality when you have to look at what it's really trying to tell you, because what you're going to find is something that you don't want to hear.
Yeah.
You're going to find that this person has mistreated you, that they've disrespected you, that they didn't consider you, that they just didn't really care. They didn't care too much about how you were going to feel about all of this. And when you start to name it, your options become really, really limited pretty quickly. And what real repair looks like obviously requires two people. And if someone's not willing to do that repair, you don't really have any choice but to let go of the person. Like, if you can't let go of the resentment, then you have to let go of the person. And a lot of people just don't want to face that.
No.
They don't want to face that fact that is the result of a lot of this stuff, is especially when it's still ongoing. There's nothing you can do to make yourself not hurt. You can try. You can try to convince yourself it doesn't hurt.
Gaslight yourself a
You
little
can
bit.
gaslight yourself all day long to say that it didn't happen, but it happened, and your body will never let you forget it.
No, that's the problem. Our body will not let us forget it. That's why it takes years after, sobriety that we still have to continue healing, or things come out in different ways, because your body will never forget.
Your body does this to keep you safe.
It does. There's a reason for it.
When you feel resentment, when you feel fear, that anger, that sort of weird betrayal feeling, that's what it's trying to teach you. It's trying to teach you that something needs to change. Something needs to either be acknowledged and we move forward from this, or I need to get away from this situation.
Right.
And it's not too much more complicated than that, especially when there's still ongoing situations.
Yeah.
When it's still very prevalent in the home, what can you possibly do?
Yeah.
You can try to find a way to reframe your expectations all day long. You can try to find a way to,
which might be your process,
to learn more about it, and just, and to look for all the reasons why that person does what they do. And you can try to take the personal sting out of it by acknowledging they've had trauma and they've been through a lot and they were never taught how to treat other people, or, they had a rough parent or a rough childhood, whatever it could be. Like, there's a million things you can do to try to get around this, but it will always come back to this. It will always come back to that.
Yeah. Yep. Again, your body keeps the score, and it's not gonna just let it go.
No, man.
Okay. So do you have anything else to add to, if you're still in the relationship?
No, I would just like to remind people that a lot of these tricks don't work in those situations. Like the trick that we talked about earlier, like resentments are like stray cats. They go away when you stop feeding them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what if you're resentful at the fact that this person has betrayed you and they've had affairs and this is like ongoing. They're still talking to this person. How do you let that go? Do you just pretend that you don't matter and that you're totally cool with an open relationship and that you don't care if you're being lied to? That you're just grateful in this situation? That's another one. People we'll get to that in a bit. So just be grateful. Just look for gratitude and just try to find the things you're grateful for. No, like don't do those things. Don't do those things. This is when that stuff does not apply. That stuff applies on the other side. That stuff doesn't apply when it's still happening, because you're never going to be able to convince yourself that you don't matter, because you do matter. And you and I both know it. That's a truth. And the fact that they don't acknowledge it is their deal, not yours. You can't do anything about it. So don't try to diminish yourself or make yourself smaller so they don't have to take accountability, or so they don't have to repair, and they don't have to move forward and make real proper amends or apologies or what have you. This is stuff that just doesn't apply. Like if someone's still hurting you and they say, someone tells you, resentment is like, it's like drinking poison, expecting to hurt them. It's like, but they're hurting me. Like they're literally hurting me right now. What do you mean? Like what they're saying in so many ways is you don't have a right to be angry, or to the degree that you do, you just need to let it go.
Let it go.
Just let it go. Like, and then I would say, no, it's just the opposite.
Right.
You can't want I should say you can want your marriage to work and then be looking at a situation that won't work, but eventually you're going to have to square the two. And you're going to have to understand that it won't work unless these things happen. And if it does work, these other things have to happen. And resentment will live somewhere between the two.
Yeah.
And for as long as someone is not going to repair, for as long as someone is not going to acknowledge, you are going to have resentment. And I think that's totally normal. And I don't think that's necessarily unhealthy either. Now, we can talk about letting go after the fact, but while we're still in it, no, that is your body's way of saying, let's get to safety. We cannot keep doing this. We've got to get out of this situation. It's just the fact of the matter. Your body's not going to let you continue to tolerate that type of treatment. It doesn't want to be treated that way. You don't deserve to be treated that way. And your innermost self knows that, and it's reminding you of that in those moments.
Yeah. Good stuff. Thank you. All right, let's talk about early recovery resentments. Kind of like what we discussed earlier about the things that I had been resentful for, and we'll just discuss kind of how we got through it, and maybe some things that people are resentful for. I do see a lot of resentment in early recovery, and I completely understand, especially if there was, infidelity and a lot of betrayal and more lies, for years and years and years and years. It's not just a switch that's flipped. That resentment is normal, and it will slowly get better with time as you become safer within your relationship, as long as the other person is changing and acknowledging their things and allowing you space to honestly feel that resentment. I think that's an important piece that a lot of people might miss, is that you allowing your spouse to like, okay, I hear you. I understand why you're resentful. Like, let's work through this. You know, I'm going to keep working my way, and you do what you got to do. Feel how you need to feel.
And major kudos to you if you're one of those people that allows someone to feel their anger and still stand there next to them while they're doing it. More often the case is that when you feel anger, they're going to tell you you're making them feel shame and you're making it worse. You're making it harder on them. And, oh, I'm just awful. I just suck. I'm just nothing. You make me want to drink when you talk like that. That's usually the case.
Well, a lot of spouses are afraid to speak up about their resentment because, they're told, oh, you don't rock the boat in your relationship during early recovery because it might make them spiral, which again is putting their sobriety on the spouse. Obviously there are ways to address things in a healthy way and not being like a complete, jerk about it. But that just comes with communication over time and being able to speak how you feel. And if you have to do that, like with a therapist, do that. But I don't let it go. Don't just release it. Your body's not going to let you do that in early recovery either.
No, man. And you mentioned time playing a role here, and it absolutely does. And I think that it's time, and then it's the repair over time and the little tiny deposits you make back into the trust bucket over time that makes someone feel safe, where they can then begin to make sense of their pain. Like Viktor Frankl talks about this, and like suffering without purpose is dangerous. Like humans, we have a really good way of rationalizing in our minds how we've been through something difficult. Like you will hear someone in recovery say like, I'm grateful that I've been through this. And like, you could hear that day one and think that's insane. Like I never would have wanted this. And I agree. Like I think there are better ways to learn the lessons I've learned, because many people have learned the same lessons without having to put others through the same type of shit or the same pain. But I am grateful for that process today. And I'll put you on the spot here.
Okay.
Are you grateful for everything we've been through to get us where we are? You can say no.
Yes and no. I think that I have dual thoughts on this. There are some things that I am grateful for, because I think that the things that you went through or whatnot, like it did make you the person you are. But for me personally, as a spouse that went through that stuff, not fully grateful on that. I'm more grateful of the tools that I've had to learn after the fact, I guess, just kind of the things that I've learned to help me on my own healing journey, and the fact that I didn't feel super crazy for what I went through or how I felt. I'm grateful for that. But to be treated a certain way, no, I don't think that that's something that I'm really grateful for. It's affected me for my entire life. It's affected a lot of things within my life that I wish that I could change. And we're always going to be a work in progress, obviously, like no matter where you are in life, as long as you're working towards it. But I struggle with that. I struggle with the being grateful for going through that stuff.
That's totally honest. I think really fair too. And that's kind of the answer I would expect to get. It's like some aspects, yeah, but in totality, no. And it's going to be totally different coming from like me, because I was the instigator here. I was the abuser. I was the person who was responsible for it. So it's much easier for me to walk forward than it is a spouse.
Yes.
And anyone who's working through this, I think you need to take note there that it's always going to be different from a spouse's perspective than it is going to be like from mine. But think about anything in your life. Like let's say that you were raised in a home where nutrition wasn't taken seriously. And so most of your adult life, you struggle with obesity or an eating disorder of some kind. And then you beat that thing. And the tools that you have to learn in order to beat something like that are life tools. Those are priceless,
great skills,
lessons that you will learn. And so in hindsight, you'll be able to say, I'm not as resentful because I can look back and I wouldn't be where I am today if not for that. Like all that stuff had to happen for me to be where I am. True, but also not, because there's other ways to learn those sorts of lessons. But this is just how we make sense of our pain. And you have to be able to do that. And kind of back to the whole point of this is that if you can't do that, the pain is for nothing and you will remain hurt. You will remain destroyed, and you can't really move forward in it. I mean, how do you?
Right. And I also think about, I am grateful because it did bring TUFO, So we are helping a lot of people through things that we went through that I did not have much help through, so I can look at it that way.
It's just not black or white, is it?
No, it's not.
It's not like, oh, you'll just be totally grateful for every bit of it.
No.
there will still be parts of it. You're like, damn, I wish I didn't ever have to do that. Like there are things I wish I didn't have to admit that I've done as a person. And I'm not proud of it. And I don't think that taught me necessarily anything other than not to be a POS, but you didn't have to have those experiences for me to learn those lessons necessarily.
Right. And I also think that it's also a process too. Like you're not going to automatically come out of that and say, "Oh, I'm grateful I had that experience."
It takes time,
it takes a long time
it's
to
only in
actually get to that
hindsight
point. It is
after the fact.
But I think a lot of people try to get people to do that too quickly, to where it's like, "Oh, you're grateful. You should be grateful for what you went through because then you've learned all these tools or whatnot." And it's like, they're not really ready for that. They're not ready. Just like those that are still resentful, they're not ready to forgive.
Yeah. The best analogy I can come up with here is this is sort of the way that I learned mathematics as a kid, where I could be sitting there and just perplexed by a problem that's on the page in front of me. And you could show me the answer. And like on a high level, I could kind of understand like that's the answer, like why that's the answer. But when it came time for testing, I was absolutely screwed. Like, and life will do the same thing to you. When you're going through your pain, someone can tell you, you have to move forward so you can heal. And you can understand that cognitively. You can kind of see why that's the answer. But until you actually sit down there and struggle and do the work to truly understand it in your own way, it's never really going to make sense or be applicable to you in a way that you can convey it to someone else or truly make purpose of your pain. I think it kind of works the same way, where it's over time, in hindsight, you make sense of it. In the moment, you're asking the wrong question. What you need to be asking yourself is what Paige is mentioning. It's just, what's this pain trying to teach me? Where's this? What parts of me has this affected? And what ways will I never be the same? And you have to really understand that stuff to get to the end, the answer, which is true, that it is something you will have to do to move forward. But on day one, don't tell people this. Yeah. That's not what they need to hear.
No.
They need to hear their pain is valid. They need to hear it's okay to hurt. They need to hear that you were wronged. That's 100% valid. You don't need to throw these Al-Anon slogans or any of these self-help slogans at them that just diminish their pain. It's rather invalidating to someone who's really hurting.
Yeah. Again, it's not a character defect to have these feelings. It's actually very normal to have these feelings, and they're there for a reason. But going back into resentment in early recovery or just recovery in general, it's going to have to be addressed. You need to address it with somebody. You can't just let it sit and simmer inside of you. Just because they got sober and are starting to get better doesn't mean the resentment is just going to go away. It needs to be addressed. And like I said, it could be with a therapist or whatnot, or we, discuss that kind of stuff in our meetings, but it still needs to be addressed. If you want your relationship to work, that still does need to be addressed within the relationship.
Absolutely it does.
But it's going to they have a bigger part in this. Like we talk about all the time with change, they have a bigger part in providing that safe space for you. And your body's going to have to feel safe. Like I said, 1 to 2 years of consistent change behavior for somebody for you to feel safe within that relationship, sometimes longer than that. And it's going to come out in layers too. It's different things that you're going to have resentments over, not just, one specific thing. It's like, it's going to change over time, but they have a bigger part in helping you get through those resentments. So I don't want you to feel like it's a problem that you're resentful. It's normal. And it's supposed to be there also in early recovery so that you don't let your guard down too quickly, because it's always a possibility that they can go back to where they were before.
Yeah, it is.
And that's where you have your boundaries in place of like, what, if this happens, I'm not going to be a part of it, because then the resentment will continue for the rest of your life through these cycles, and you've got to address it somehow.
Yeah. And there's some things that you can be resentful for that I think we truly do just process, and it just becomes less important as life presents bigger problems.
Absolutely.
Like I think about like during our wedding, there was some drama going on with some family members or something like that. And like at that time in our lives, when that is the most important thing to you, like your wedding day, it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. And as time goes on, it becomes less of a big deal as you gain perspective in life about what's really important. And not to diminish anyone that still believes this is truly important. Just for us, I know it was a big deal around the house for a while. And over time, it becomes a little less important as bigger things come up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. But I do feel like that specific instance was a smaller, it wasn't a small issue. Because it continued to happen, like
things like that did.
Right. So, but and with life experience, you will recognize like small things that aren't really that deep. Kind of like you said earlier, if somebody like, oh, they in high school, sophomore year or whatever, they went and hung out with another girl or found another girl or something like that. Those kinds of things. It's like, okay, yeah, that's a big deal when you're younger, but older, you're like, okay, there are bigger issues that I should be resentful for, which would be, lying, neglecting, abandoning, manipulating, gaslighting, these things that happen constantly. Those are big problems. Those are those are issues. But the smaller things, you're like, okay, you learn to
the guy that
move
took your
past
parking
that.
spot, at the grocery store on Saturday, like you'll get over that rather quickly because something bigger will happen and require your attention in life pretty fast.
Yeah.
When it comes to things like abuse, like it's going to have to be something rather extreme to make that feel kind of small, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that acknowledging that too is that maybe even as time goes on, something like an affair can probably feel a little less painful, but I think you're always going to have some degree of it. To some degree, it's a serious thing. And maybe as time goes on and there's been a lot of repair and other things have happened, you've had deaths in the family, you've been through all kinds of tough stuff and you make it out the other side, it hurts a little less, but it doesn't completely not hurt.
Right.
So I don't think there's a magic bullet to just wipe it away.
No, that'd be nice, right?
Until they come up with a machine like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind where they can put you under and just delete memories. I don't think it's going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
I guess Alzheimer's, right? I got that to look forward to. I'm pretty sure it's coming for me.
I think you got a little bit of that going on.
Yeah.
I think we both do.
Yeah. All right. What's up next?
Okay. The next is going to be like, what just happened to my mouth? Okay. Next is going to be what resentment looks like in healthy relationships.
Okay.
So this would be basically resentments in our relationship because our relationship is pretty damn healthy now. After how long have you been sober? 13?
13 years.
It'll be 13 years in April. Okay. I always thought it was 13 years, but it's like, I think of our daughter's age anyway. So we're in a pretty healthy spot. Resentments in healthy relationships. That's where the slogans or comments that we were saying kind of come into play.
They can be really helpful here.
They can be very helpful because our relationship the foundation is safe. Like we feel good with each other. We feel like we can talk about things. If there's something that happens, it's typically the resentment will be from like, chores or unequal partnership a little bit, or maybe a miscommunication, just smaller things where you can address it and then apologies are made, accountability is made, and behavior is changed.
Yeah.
That's where resentments are that's where the normal things apply within.
Try to think of a
healthy
resentment
relationship
that you've picked up in the last decade or something that was unrelated to this.
Me specifically. Did I mention one earlier?
I don't remember.
Before we got on, I thought I mentioned one and then now I don't remember what it was. You can probably figure out something that I was resentful for.
You don't get too resentful these days. Not really. Not with like ongoing things.
No.
Or just with any sort of event. The Blink-182 show when we were in high school.
Yeah, but I got over that as adults.
Bigger things happen.
But it was bigger things happen. It was one of those like, okay, he said I was going to go. He had a ticket for me and then he ended up taking a friend instead of me. And I was like quite sad about that because I didn't get to go to like concerts and stuff. And I was excited, but he ended up taking somebody else. And I was upset about that. I think that any person would, normally be upset about that, but I'm not resentful for it. I don't resent you for it.
Just trying to think if there's anything I've done here in the last decade or so. Oh, during COVID, I was more or less gambling on the stock market and I lost some money. Do you remember that?
Yeah, but I don't remember being angry about that.
You weren't angry or resentful about that?
No.
Is there anything else that you've been, I'm not really sure you have.
No, because we talk it through. So I will say if there's something I might be upset about, like, okay, I'm going to address this. Like let's say that you've given somebody money without talking to me. Okay. Like a large amount of money for something and you're like, okay, they're going to pay me back, but you didn't talk to me about it. I think I have somewhat of a right to be upset about that, but we discuss it and you acknowledge it. And it's like, okay, I'm not going to, I'm sorry that I did that. Next time I will have a conversation with you about it.
And at that point, you can just let it go. Like,
yes.
You can.
And at that point, you just let it go. As long as.
How do you let it go?
Okay. I wouldn't say you don't 100% let it go quickly. It's almost as if like you don't wait until you bring it up and say, hey, look, somebody asked me for money.
Yeah.
What is your thought on that? And then I'd be like, okay, now I can totally let go of everything because now I trust your process of doing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, like sort of in the moment, like what's going on in your mind when I've done something that's upset you? And you kind of have a choice at that moment to like hold on to this, regardless if I apologize or not. Even if I do, you could still hold on to it. You can still stay upset with it.
Right.
Why don't you? And how do you not do that?
I look at
because I don't think that the way you handle it is the way that everyone handles it. I think there are a lot of people out there who really struggle with like justifiable anger and staying mad about something.
Yeah, I think you're right too. I just don't sit on that stuff too long because I don't like the way that anger makes me feel physically. I don't like how it actually raises my blood pressure, which I have high blood pressure right now anyway. And then I have all of these physical symptoms that make me very uncomfortable. I get really dizzy. I'm like totally wonky for a few days. So I've learned to control that anger and actually look at it as I dissect it. I'm like, okay, is this something that I really need to be angry about? Does this really affect me in the long run?
So you play is this a big deal or is this a big problem or a small problem?
Yeah,
and you have a filter for what that looks like.
Yes, I do. And most of the time, like if something really, really affects me, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be angry about this because that affects me. It's kind of like where I set boundaries. I talk about this all the time. Like, but your behaviors, your things, whatever you're doing impacts me. That means that I need to do something about that. And I need to set boundaries for that. So if I'm angry about something that doesn't really directly impact me, I'm like, okay, I need to reevaluate that. And I don't think that that's justified anger.
Okay. That makes sense. You can you have a filter for it.
I do.
And I think I don't think I'm off base saying this, that there's a lot of people that don't. And any perceived slight is an attack on them as a person. And it's not just like it's Hanlon's razor is don't contribute to malice, which you can contribute to incompetence. A lot of times people are we're selfish creatures and we think about ourselves most of the time. And sometimes that means that you will be on the receiving end of someone else's lack of consideration or selfishness, but it's not necessarily a statement about your worthiness. I think a lot of people struggle with that.
Oh, I struggle with that. But I don't put it on you necessarily, I guess. I don't hold on to that resentment. I know that if I feel like something is personal or it hits me, I'm like, ooh, that stings. There's a filter for it. Like you said, I'm going to address that within myself and try to figure out where this is coming from and why I feel that way.
And I think this is where some of that stuff does apply, like some of these slogans. Mm-hmm. Like
absolutely,
resentments are like stray cats that go away when you stop feeding them. Like at some point you're going to be like, okay, well, he didn't not order me the drink I asked him to because he hates me. He didn't do it because I'm a bad person. He doesn't do it because he doesn't love me, because I have all these other examples of them showing up for me. They just made a mistake. And so in those moments, you can kind of breathe it out and just let it go.
Yeah.
But what you're really doing, I think, is you have to kind of gain perspective.
Absolutely.
And perspective matters, and your history with that person matters,
mm-hmm.
and everything else.
Patterns.
And it's almost like you can earn good credit to the degree that you're allowed to make a mistake every once in a while.
Yeah.
And you can let the shit go.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. But I always feel like if I was resentful towards anything, like I said, it was typically something that was pretty big. It was something that needed to be addressed. It was something that it's like, all right, this is a problem. This is a pattern that my body is picking up on. So there's a reason I need to say that. Now, early on in recovery, you would, kind of faulted me for that in a way, to where it's like, okay, you can grind an axe like anybody, or you hold resentments like crazy. And you would use your AA talk on me about the resentments and stuff. And I'm like, no, that just doesn't feel right. Like, I'm going to try this. I would listen to you sometimes, but then I was like, oh, something's just not right here. My body would not let me let it go just because you were telling me to. I was like, no, the resentments are important because they're telling me that I need to do something. And I'm not talking about resentments with you. I'm talking about resentments outside of our relationship. You know what I'm talking about,
yeah,
right?
For
like
sure.
Just, and how it's like, okay, so that's when I did decide to make changes. That's when I decided to set boundaries. That's when I decided to go no contact. That's when I decided to do all these things because that resentment was telling me something.
Yeah. And there's a basis of trust in a relationship that's healthy. Mm-hmm. And you can always go back to that safety and that trust. And that's the foundation. In an unhealthy relationship, there is none of that. So it's going to feel incredibly different. And your resentment is quite literally a survival mechanism. It's a survival skill to remind you something's not right. We have to get to safety. It's kind of knocking on your head saying, hey, pay attention to me. I'm trying to tell you something. In a healthy relationship, it's more about intimacy and closeness and it's not about survival anymore.
No.
And so
not
you
about
really do
protecting
get a
you.
choice in those moments to kind of quote unquote, let something go, whatever it might be, except someone's mistake is a sincere mistake and not an attack or a pattern of behavior that's trying to tell you something.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, I think.
Right.
It's
Absolutely.
It's the pattern, it's the safety, and it's the fact that this isn't a survival skill.
Yep.
But I think that even for spouses, especially, like, let's say, like, there is no day that you appear before like a recovery judge and they tell you, okay, you are now in a healthy relationship. You are now safe. It doesn't work that way. So there will be stuff that happens long after someone has done all the things they're supposed to do to make repair, and you will still feel this way. And this is a process of kind of having to learn, am I safe or not? And really start to learn what safety means to you. And are these things actually happening? And you're going to kind of have to ascertain what this means for yourself. And it's going to be different for every single person, because at no point does anyone just declare you one day like, okay, you are now healed, and they slam down the gavel and you're like, okay, now I can start to let things go. It doesn't work that way. It's a process of kind of like testing that line, watching for the patterns. Am I safe? Do we have closeness? Is there trust between us? And you get to measure that in a million different ways to know the difference.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not black and white.
No.
So you will go through periods where it's like, I mean, theoretically you should let something go, but you're not going to be able to, because the pattern in your life is showing you that resentment's trying to tell you something. And even when you are safe and it would be safe to let something go, you're not going to feel like it's okay to.
No.
And so at some point you're going to have to kind of try it and see what happens, and you'll learn through that.
Yeah.
Over time. And you'll know pretty quickly if it was too soon.
Yeah, you will. It's like you said, it's pretty complex. It's not black and white. Like there's a process that goes through it.
I wish it were simple.
It'd be nice, right? But that's not life.
No.
Okay, so let's just reframe the question again, because like I said, we get this question all the time. How do I deal with resentment? How do I get through it? I want to get rid of it. Instead of asking that, ask yourself, what is my resentment trying to tell me? Am I still in harm's way? And is this resentment protecting me, or is it weighing me down? Like, is it there for a reason, or is it not? That's really the basic question you should be asking yourself if you feel like you have a lot of resentment built up. It's there for a reason. Pay attention to it. Pay attention to the patterns. Journal about it if you have to. Talk to somebody about it. Let it out, and know that it is not a defect to feel this way. It is an important emotion for you to go through in order to make significant changes in your life.
Yeah, I think that sums it up perfectly. There will be a time and a place when you can start to feel safe again, but you will know what that is. Don't try to diminish your body's defense mechanisms and your survival instincts just because you want the happy Facebook photos and the highlight reels of a relationship. It's not what we're doing this for. If there's not real safety, it's not real. It's just not. And that resentment's going to sit there and remind you of that on a daily basis. At some point, you'll get to choose. But that will be after someone else does something that you don't have a hell of a lot of control over.
Right.
Because it will get to a point, and I've seen couples get here too, where there's been someone who made a mistake and there's been resentment from a spouse, and they have done everything they possibly could in a decade to make up for that and to acknowledge their pain and to sit with them through their pain. And they're still angry. And their therapist literally told them, you either forgive him or you divorce him, but you can't have it both ways, because this is killing you at this point. Like, really it is. Like, he's let you beat him up as much as a person can be beat up, and you still feel this way. So you either leave or you forgive.
Right.
Your choice.
Yeah.
And she was like, never really considered it. She chose to forgive him. They've moved past it. I don't think it was like a light switch, but she gave herself permission to.
Yeah. And
then you move forward.
I don't want anyone to ever think that we're like encouraging people to beat up their spouse.
No,
like,
please don't.
In a verbal way. Like we've said, I think that anger is important, but being aggressive is not what we preach. There's a way to release that anger in ways that is productive and important and healthy for you and other people. But just because somebody has been a jerk to you for a really long time doesn't mean that we need to be continuously like poking at them and berating them and being ugly to them, especially if they're trying to make change. But if you're still done, you're done. You know, that's okay too. Just don't. You don't have to be aggressive, because it's. You're still a human, you know. Just if you're going to be aggressive, if you're still going to be really angry for a long period of time, then you don't need to be in that relationship anyway.
I think that's very well said.
It's just
an important reminder too.
It is. It's just an important reminder.
Yeah, because there are some people, like we talked about pettiness, right?
Yes.
Some people just love to throw shots, and it makes them feel better, makes them feel like their pain had some sort of reason, and they just need to remind someone over and over and over and over. At some point, that shit has to kind of stop.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Like, how is it building us up? How is this productive? How is this going to help us? And it's not anymore.
Like, I think about all the shit that you've done. And I remember when we first came on, and I've talked to you about this before. Like, I don't like talking trash about you. I don't like talking bad about you. I don't like putting you in that light, because that goes against my values. Even though I know that you did some harmful and hurtful things, that was one thing that I feel like I've done okay with, is not being a complete pain in the ass towards you. Like, of course I would say things and bring stuff up, but I never really like shoved it down your throat or tried to make you feel, less than just because of that. Because like I said, it goes against my values, but I understand why people might feel that way and may want to feel that way. I just think that there's a healthier way to address it than to be, petty or ugly or ugly. I can't really think of another way to put it.
Yeah. I think that once there's contempt and there's no more patience, like what just go ahead and call.
And what are we doing here?
Call your prospective attorneys and let's get this process started. Like, how do you come back from that when you've got contempt for one another,
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what are you fighting for anymore?
Right. And I would call you out, of course, like in active addiction. I'd be like, I don't like this behavior. This is bullshit. Like, what are you doing? How dare you? But it wasn't, I don't know. I just don't feel like I was ever, unless you can correct me and say that I was pretty hard on you. I mean, I've been hard on you, but.
Yeah, I think it's different when someone allows you the space. Like, I know that you've always known that you can say whatever you need to say. And like, you can't hurt my feelings with truths I've already accepted about myself. I just want you to be able to talk about them with me.
Yeah.
And to know that I'm going to hold space for that. And like, I'm going to honor that by holding that space and giving you the chance to say whatever you need to say. And I think when you have permission to do that, you're less likely to do it.
Right.
And then whereas if you don't, it's going to feel like it's going to build up in a way where it's going to come out.
Let it out.
That makes sense. I think that's kind of the way
I think
it was
that's great.
us.
Yeah.
All right. I think pretty decent discussion about resentment. Hopefully you've got a better grasp on when some of this crap about letting go is appropriate and when it's not. And you know what that looks like for you. And just remind yourself that my resentment, my anger is trying to teach me something. And even though it doesn't feel good, doesn't mean it's not there for a reason. And you'll decide ultimately when it's appropriate to let go of that kind of stuff. That's between you and the person that's repairing or not repairing. And at the end of the day, you can't have it both ways. You can't be with someone who's mistreating you and try to teach your brain not to acknowledge that stuff. You either treat someone right or you don't. Okay. Your marriage is either going to work out or it's not. But it's a possibility that it won't, but it won't necessarily be your fault or because you couldn't let go. I think you let go whenever you're in a safe place and you've been given permission to do that. And then you can give yourself permission once that occurs. And it will get better. It can get better. It absolutely can. But a lot of people aren't going to take the accountability that makes that possible. And again, nothing you can do about it. I wish there were, there's not. And we will never teach you how to gaslight yourself. There are people that do that. Go listen to their show.
Yep.
Not our thing.
Right.
All right. Till next time, I'm Matt.
I'm Paige.
And we'll see you.
Bye.